Good evening and welcome to World Review 2016. I'm Sonia Artero.
And I'm Chris Lincoln. Politics, as we know it, was turned upside down in 2016.
And nowhere was that more apparent than in the race to become the next U.S. president.
Perhaps it was inevitable, given years of economic turmoil, that people around the world were abandoning middle ground politics and turning to movements or personalities who appealed to gut emotion. People and ideas which would make things great again. It's in this context that the rise of populist politics in 2016 might be explained. And nowhere did that feature than in the campaign to become the 45th U.S. president. It was a race which saw a self-styled outsider, Donald Trump, defy the odds and beat the presumed favorite, Hillary Clinton. From the catastrophe of the Great Recession to immigration to the massive job losses suffered because of globalization, contenders promised solutions and a new deal for America. At the beginning of the year, most assumed Clinton would easily win the Democratic nomination. But Senator Bernie Sanders' campaign was growing in momentum. His fiery rhetoric attacking Wall Street and big business appealed to many. Slogans like "Feel the Burn" became part of the campaign lingo.
I believe in Bernie. I believe in his plan.
We're in desperate shape, and I hope he can pull it off, because the Democratic Party does not represent the American people. They represent the wealthy interests.
Clinton maintained her lead, but Sanders kept on challenging. She was forced to respond to criticism. She represented the establishment in New York and Washington. But despite a valiant campaign from Sanders, the Democratic Party machine was on Clinton's side. Many suspected the party had secretly backed Clinton all along. Her message turned more left as the Clinton campaign sought to assimilate Bernie supporters to take on Trump. When he first announced his Republican Party candidacy in July 2015, it was seen as a publicity stunt, even a joke. But as his popularity grew among grassroots Republicans, it was clear Donald Trump was someone to be taken seriously. That was quite an achievement, given at one point there were so many in the race. Trump tapped into the disaffected masses, using language that played to fears about immigration, terrorism, and America losing jobs because of bad trade deals cooked up by out-of-touch politicians in Washington. The tycoon's rhetoric often invoked fear of the other, minorities, illegal immigrants, and criminals bent on harming America.
We're going to strengthen our border. We're going to have a really strong border. We're going to build the wall. We're going to build the wall.
When we're dealing with these animals, we can't be soft and weak.
His campaign was accused of inciting hatred, bigotry, sexism, and racism. In July, both Clinton and Trump were named their party's presidential nominees.
And so, my friends, it is with humility, determination, and boundless confidence in America's promise that I accept your nomination.
Then they went on the attack. Trump portrayed Clinton as crooked Hillary, in bed with the establishment, untrustworthy, and rotten to the core. He cited the controversy over her private email server while she was Secretary of State and her handling of the Benghazi crisis in 2011 as evidence of her deceit and incompetence.
How does Hillary Clinton get a national security briefing when she's been probably hacked, when so much of her information, the director of the FBI, said it was essentially negligent?
Clinton, meanwhile, focused on Trump's personality, highlighting his dubious record of sexism and his hateful rhetoric.
And I am disturbed by the rhetoric I hear coming from the other side. You know, it's easy to tear down. It's hard to build up.
All of this, Clinton argued, made him unfit to be president. The inevitable stumbling blocks dogged both candidates. Mid-September, Clinton announced she had pneumonia, but admitted her campaign hid it for 2 days. But Trump was hit by his own scandal right before the first presidential debate, when it was revealed he may have avoided paying millions of dollars in taxes. Then, the second, more serious scandal hit the tycoon right before the second debate in October. A recording of him making sexist and lewd remarks about women back in 2005 went viral, and immediately the backlash was furious. Trump declared that the election was rigged against him by the establishment, which supported Clinton. Then, less than 2 weeks away, the director of the FBI announced a new finding in the investigation into Clinton's emails. The FBI started looking into whether classified information was on a device belonging to Anthony Weiner, the disgraced ex-congressman who was separated from a Clinton aide. It was a godsend to Trump, who used it to hammer home the message that Clinton could not be trusted. On the eve of the election, the polls suggested Clinton would win. But as the results rolled in, it was clear things were going Trump's way. He won the key swing states of Ohio, Florida, and North Carolina, while stealing Democratic strongholds like Wisconsin and Michigan. It was a result which left many stunned, especially given how a Clinton victory seemed assured. But others weren't as shocked, pointing to the fact that Trump's message resonated with a large portion of voters who felt neglected by Clinton and the establishment at large.
Love Trump's hate!
Adding to the drama, barely a month after the election, President Obama accused the Russians of hacking into email accounts of senior Democrats in a bid to sabotage Clinton's campaign and give Trump an advantage. Trump said he was inspired by the British vote to leave the European Union. Like with Trump's campaign, populist politics featured heavily in the campaign for a Brexit from the EU. It's a result which will have profound implications for the UK in the years and perhaps decades to come. At the beginning of the year, Britain was gearing up for an EU referendum, which had been promised by then Prime Minister David Cameron. Cameron was hoping to win the vote and silence members on the far right of his Tory party, who had long distrusted the EU and wanted the UK out of Europe. He insisted he had secured the best deal possible from Europe, giving Britain all the privileges of the single market while allowing the UK more power to control immigration. But the Leave campaign, fronted by a crew of unlikely allies, from nationalists like Nigel Farage to ambitious politicians such as Boris Johnson, built up a steady case that immigration was out of control in Britain. The Remain campaign countered by saying that leaving the EU would bring economic and financial ruin to Britain. The Leave campaign made dubious claims that quitting Europe would free up billions of pounds for the UK's public health care system. Then, on June 16th, less than 2 weeks before the vote, Labour Party MP Jo Cox was shot and stabbed to death while campaigning for the Remain side in West Yorkshire. Her killer was an English nationalist, and it left the nation in shock. He was later convicted and sent to life in prison for his crime. But it wasn't enough to persuade people to vote Remain. On June 23rd, the UK decided by a slim margin to leave the EU. The result stunned the world.
It's a victory for ordinary people, decent people. It's a victory against the big merchant banks, against the big businesses, and against big politics.
It revealed stark divisions in the UK, with younger, wealthier, and urban dwellers supporting Remain, while older, poorer, and those living in the suburbs voted Leave.
I think it's completely idiotic. I think it's economic insanity.
It's just gone too long. It's become something that was never meant to be, and I think in the end it was better for us to be out.
The English and Welsh supported the Leave camp, while Scots and Northern Irish emerged more pro-Europe. Almost immediately, Brexit triggered a political crisis in Britain, with Cameron announcing his resignation.
But I do not think it would be right for me to try to be the captain that steers our country to its next destination.
The Conservatives were engulfed in a leadership battle. The leader of the opposition Labour Party faced a challenge to his authority over his alleged inaction to keep the UK in Europe. By August, the UK had a new Prime Minister in Theresa May. She named Brexit-supporting Tories as ministers responsible for helping the UK leave the EU.
Brexit means Brexit, and we're going to make a success of it.
While the economic impact wasn't as bad as first feared, the value of the pound declined steadily from June to November, depreciating Britain's buying power and making imports more expensive. More ominously, Europe refused to negotiate with Britain about the terms of Brexit until it formally triggered Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty to leave the EU. May has indicated this would be done in March at the latest. But in December, a case was brought before the court arguing May couldn't trigger the UK's exit from the EU without the approval of Parliament. The Supreme Court says it will have a ruling in January in a case which could hamper the government's Brexit plans. Thousands of miles to the east, a veteran politician rode a wave of popularity to become president of the Philippines. Rodrigo Duterte, the former mayor of Davao, won many fans for bringing down crime, tackling the drug gangs, and dealing with Muslim rebels in Mindanao. Like Trump, he spoke in a brash and profane manner and projected a tough guy image to appeal to the people. When he took office at the end of June, he immediately declared a national war on drug dealers and drug takers. He gave police all necessary powers to take them down, even encouraging vigilantes to join the fight. Human rights groups said in his few months of office, Duterte's anti-drug campaign had left thousands dead. They criticized his scorn of due process and worried how suspects were denied basic legal rights. He also unsettled traditional allies by reaching out to China and Russia. On a trip to Beijing in October, Duterte declared his intention the Philippines should have stronger and friendlier ties with Beijing. He also announced he would suspend joint military operations with the U.S. and that no foreign troops would be allowed to operate on Philippine soil.
When we get back, terror strikes again at the heart of Europe while it's endgame for the Syrian city of Aleppo.